You mentioned the example of cutting throat and Scott Steiner. Now, you and I both know, and Scott's a friend as well, but we all know that, Scott was perceived as being scary and legitimate. And we all know in real life that that is who he is. People are terrified
Yes.
of this guy. Now, at that time in wrestling, there were a lot of guys that were perceived as being pretty damn serious and threatening. Like we all know about Ming and Haku, whatever you want to call it, and all the guys like that. In there as a smart ass heel. Why, in an era when things were sometimes a little serious, why do you think you got over to the level you got over to?
Well, in the very beginning, you got to realize, man, that I was the youngest by 10 years on the whole roster. And here I am, a pretty good looking guy, and but very, very, very humble at the time because of Missy Hyatt brought me in the business. I was a pretty humble guy anyway in the very beginning because of just knowing what Missy told me about how tough this business is to get into. And so, I found myself, knowing to shake hands and to thank everybody and to say hello. I was a very well-mannered kid from my parents, but at the same time, in this industry, you got to really walk in and pay your dues by shaking hands and kissing ass. And I did so. And I had a little more of a hard time, I think, because pretty boys in this business, they get the thing, the gay thing, and no matter in life, that just comes along with the territory of being a good looking guy. And so I had that tag on me a little bit with, oh, he's gay, he's queer. And all of a sudden, this 10-year younger than anybody kid that's a pretty boy, they found out happened to be a badass. And I found that with the boys of a locker room being tough guys, that they found out that Bagwell would knock you out. And it helped me tremendously because we were at a club in Jacksonville, Florida, and all the guys were in there. And this guy was running his mouth, and he hopped up on me, and pow, one punch, and all the boys saw it. And I had tough, badass guys walking up to me and going, "How did you knock that guy out? Did you mean to? What did you do?" And all these guys would pull me into a locker room where nobody else could hear them, but I could tell it shook them. So here's this kid that throws one punch and knocks a grown man out with one punch, and it really helped me tremendously in the industry of a lot of tough guys because they saw that Bagwell would hit you.
It absolutely would. And I want to talk more about that. But first, up until that point, who was giving you shit? Do you mind saying? I don't usually like shooting on these interviews on anybody, but
no, yeah. But tell the truth for sure.
WCW days, and people want to know this stuff for sure.
Absolutely. It was, it wasn't horrible because Sting came in pretty quick and saved me. And when Sting accepted me, it was just everybody else accepted me. But I was scared to death of the Steiner boys because I would see them do things to rookies and stuff. And anytime they came into a locker room, I just switched locker rooms, and it wasn't too long I had to do. I mean, I didn't get messed with too bad, but it would have been a lot worse if Sting hadn't hopped in my car and me and Sting just really hit it off. So that really saved a lot of it. And even when he came in my car and we started riding together, it took the boys a little bit of time before they accepted me because the Steiners were the probably the hardest to win over, and we got the closest. I remember Sting came to my house one day to shoot basketball, and he drove the limo up, and all the neighborhood was out seeing Sting come to my house, and he got out of the limo with the blonde hair and everything. We're shooting basketball. So on my recorder that day was two separate messages, one from Rick Steiner and one from Scott Steiner on Marcus Alexander Bagwell's recorder. And it blew Sting's mind. He was like, it was just 6 months ago, these guys hated your guts. But once they got to know Mark and that Mark wasn't a pussy, then they knew that, I was kind of accepted in the tough guy locker room.